Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines. I have a little hair sticking up on top of my head. This is our daily get-together live here on Facebook every day of the week, 10:30 in the morning, where we discuss questions, ideas, topics, suggestions, headlines, anything that has to do with Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, and how to make our lives better living here in Puerto Vallarta as an English-speaking community. It is always a pleasure to get together with you. And oh my God, the Luna cam is on. Luna is missing. What am I doing? Let's go like this. Luna has been in bed all morning. This is one of those days in which if I am sitting at my desk, everything's fine. But if I approach the bedroom, she'll start meowing and somehow implying that it is time for me to go to bed with her again. And she gets into her stay in bed with me moods. But today, of course, we have many things to talk about, as always. But before we do that, I want to welcome anyone that is new to these broadcasts. If you are new, it's always great to see you with us. And you can let us know that you are new by writing the word new in your comments. And if you have something important that you wish to discuss during the broadcast, just add the letter Q and we'll be looking for it during the broadcast. If we don't get to it, we will gladly answer your comments afterwards. So let's see who is in the house before we get going. Oh, and one thing, if you are missing if you are missing the show notes from yesterday, that's because I played hooky all day long and I haven't published them. But I promise right after this broadcast, we will publish show notes for yesterday's Sunday Fun Day show. And also, of course, for this morning's broadcast. So I am so happy to see you, Raymond, because yesterday you came up in conversation. We showed some rather interesting loaves of bread. In case you missed yesterday's broadcasts, you may be inspired by them. But it's great to see you today. Of course, Dani Aguilera, so good to see you. And your spouse, of course. Den, it's great to see you. I hope you're enjoying the visit of your relatives. You reported sometime last week that you were going to get visits. Michael is in the house. Always great to see you, my dear friend. Stephanie is here from Tabachines. Portland has electricity. Thank God. That's great news, Michael. It's great to see you. Let's see who else is here. New Westminster's in the house. Hello, Margaret. It's great to see you. Craig is in Oklahoma. Great to see you as well. Let's see. A great dinner at Bravo's. How could a dinner at Bravo's go wrong? This is wonderful to hear, Kathleen. Always great. I am now focused on that one hair standing up. You know, in one of the transitions, I'll try to pluck it off. And if I fail, let it stay there. Who cares? And I need coffee too. Actually, my French press decided to develop a crack. And one of my missions for today is to replace it. So I am very, very happy for that. Gary, that's Lorraine and Joe in Puerto Vallarta. And Gary is on Butterfinger Watch for Paco. Have you not seen my waistline recently, Gary? I have a good stash of Butterfingers in the refrigerator right now for emergency. We never know what Reglamentos is going to come up with. Maybe Reglamentos will say that Butterfinger consumption is dangerous for COVID. We never know, but we do have a headline today about Reglamentos and musicians that has me completely irked. because I don't understand it and I wish to understand it better. But I do not wish to get ahead of myself. Today is Monday, and we do have some updates from our governor, and we also have interesting news about a president that's visiting our country. And it is so coincidental that this president comes from the same country that of origin of the one musician that we are going to just love today in our brand new official section, Music Mondays. That's what it is. We're going to have a new section about music today. But first, let's go through what we go, and let's take it from there. Got it? Oh no, it's stuck. Okay, never mind that. Never mind the hair. As usual, Monday is a day in which we hear from Enrique Alfaro, the governor of our state. This is what he had to say. This morning, we reviewed the epidemiologic evolution in Jalisco, and I was very happy to see that the new plan, COVID 2021, is working. After such a difficult month as January was, the COVID indicators continue to be decreasing. General occupation in hospitals is down to 28.8%, and ICU beds is at 45.3%. The active cases are half the number when compared to just a few weeks ago, and the positivity rate in the tests performed by Radar Jalisco is 21.4%, and no region in the state is over 50% of occupation in hospitals. But keep an eye on this, because if we're going well, this does not mean that we can or should let our guards down. Jalisco can defend itself from the pandemic if each one of us, from wherever our field happens to be, understands the responsibility that is ours to not catch the virus and not spread the virus. Let us continue this way to continue reactivating our economy and looking after our medical personnel and our families. So this is what Governor Alfaro has said. Now let's take a look at the graphs. First of all, we look at hospital occupation. As he mentioned, we are down to 28.8 for general occupation and 45.3 for ICU occupation. We will take a look at a comparison in a second, but first let's take a look at the percentage of occupation per region. And indeed, no region has a number higher than 50% right now, which is excellent news. The Puerto Vallarta area is down to 16.4% of hospital occupation, which is very, very encouraging. Here is a graph showing public hospital occupation through time, starting on 24th of January, when things were looking not so good. And we are down, it was 61.5 back in January, and now we are down to 28.8. That is very encouraging. And here is the graph for ICU beds. We were up to 77.2% on January 24th, and now we are down to 45.3. Another good improvement on the numbers, and this is a good thing to see. Let me pause to take a look at some of your comments before we get started with the rest of the news. Love Alfalfa. Oh yeah, Alfalfa had hair issues as well, if I recall correctly. Let me take a look. See, it's gone. See, it's gone. It was never there. It's called a cowlick. I had no idea of that term. I think I had a cowlick, but it was fake news. It was never there. Let's see what else we have. Looking for cues. I don't see any cues. Susie says that Fauci says we will still be wearing masks into 2022. That means we won't be coming down to PV this year. That is unfortunate. And I'm sorry to hear about husband. But I hope you guys are going to be on the mend and you will be able to come back sometime in the future. Let's see. Dean, thank you very much for sharing one of your songs on YouTube. I'll be so very happy to listen to this after the show. Thank you so kindly. Uh, Ghost Radio sounds again. It must be Monday Music Day or Music Monday Day. I'm not entirely sure what it was. And yes, I had a stitch of a time yesterday hanging out with Juan Caballos and hanging out at the river. It is always so peaceful and quite unexpectedly. And I haven't processed my photographs, but this blank of cows, I know it's a school of fish. In our case, it was this blank of cows, this group of cows maneuvered through the river right in front of us, and it was a ton of them, and they were chilling and grazing. I think it's grazing. They were eating the plants, and then they were just chilling. They plopped themselves into the river. It was quite a beauty. It was absolutely wonderful to see. Um, Local a question: what's the local opinion of visitors coming down to PV? Um, I understand that to mean what do we think of visitors coming to PV? Oh my goodness! I have to tell you. Oh, a herd. Thank you, Cluster. Thank you. A herd of cows. I have to tell you, Nick. It is really divided, Nick. I think there are a number of us that feel very strongly that if you're coming on vacation and the destination offers what you need and you are here being mindful of the guidelines that are in place for us to be able to continue with our lives safely, and you know what those guidelines are and you understand them. I personally, and I'm sure many people, couldn't be happier to see you visit the destination. You will come across, and this I've seen it on social media, you will come across a number of people that are still frightened, or their comfort level is not where it should be, or maybe their attitude about life is not as healthy, or maybe they haven't gotten laid, or they're having a bad day. I don't know. There are a lot of angry people out there, Nick, that will tell you, "Oh no, you can't come here. Stay home." So, and one third aspect to keep in mind is we do see visitors and tourists coming to our city that have no regard or very little regard to the current guidelines that are in place here, not in their city of origin. We don't, I mean, it is important to know what the guidelines are wherever you come from. But the bottom line is we have our guidelines. I don't know that they're better or worse than the guidelines that are in place elsewhere. But as long as you're here and you're willing and able to look at our guidelines and follow them, it is a good thing. It is a good thing. And I hope if you're traveling to Puerto Vallarta that you'll enjoy yourself and you and your loved ones, and that you'll have a great time. Zoe and Sharon are sending love from Key West. This is, oh my goodness, we'll try to get to PV as soon as we get our shots. Please come back, because today is Music Monday, and you are musicians, and you have to be here, and we love you. Angelica asks, did I take pictures of the cows? Yes, I just haven't had a chance to cook them. Um, uh, Steve asks, can crocs catch COVID? Are they staying socially distanced? Well, we have an in-house crocodile expert. I'm going to let Michael answer that question if he could. Here's a remark from Dave. Please come, spend money, but wear a mask. That is very, very fair. And let me now continue with the news, because we still have quite a few things to go through. I am happy to report that COVID-19 vaccination of Jalisco's medical personnel has concluded, with 27,274 doses of the Pfizer vaccine being used out of 27,300 sent to the state by the Federation. We also learned that in the 23 municipalities where vaccination for seniors has begun, there is already an advance of 54.4%. A second batch of vaccines for seniors is forthcoming. However, the date for its arrival has not yet been announced. Also, in COVID-related news, it is unfortunate to learn that Health Undersecretary Hugo López-Gatell has tested positive for COVID-19. He posted the news on his Twitter account just yesterday. Fortunately, he is only presenting light symptoms, but he is working from home in quarantine, of course. We wish him a speedy recovery. And we also learned that today, the president of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, arrived to Mexico for a 3-day work-related trip. Mexico President Andrés Manuel López Obrador acknowledged the good relationship between the two countries and how President Fernandez of Argentina was instrumental in facilitating the purchase of the Russian Sputnik vaccine to include in Mexico's Mexico's vaccination strategy. It is expected that President Fernandez will make a statement in López Obrador's daily morning press conference tomorrow morning. And the last formal bit of news that I wish to share with you is putting me in such a bad mood, it's not even funny. Last week, we reported that some Reglamentos people showed up at the Palm Cabaret, arguing that musicians could only perform once a week. And I thought, well, that's crazy. That's just crazy because that's not what the state guideline says. Well, apparently, it turns out that this notion of musicians only being able to perform once per week, according to the local regulations or reglamentos office, is bigger than we knew. It is actually real, according to Noticias PV. It is a decision that has nothing to do with the statewide guidelines that were introduced last week. But apparently it was reported that Juan Velasquez, who is the Department of the Reglamentos office, has confirmed that if you are a musician in town, you can only work 1 day a week. So if you're a music teacher, you can only teach 1 day a week. If you're a performer, if you're performing at a venue that is following the guidelines, you can only perform once a week. This is absolutely absurd. And according to unnamed sources, Reglamentos is taking advantage of the situation by closing businesses and receiving expensive bribes for certain places to be able to continue to operate. I sure hope that more musicians will start to raise their voices against this regulation, which makes very little sense to me, or that, to that effect, that somebody from the Office of Reglamentos will actually come forth and explain the logic behind only allowing musicians to work 1 day a week. I may be bold enough to try to reach the head of Reglamentos for an explanation, but I just don't know that he or she will take my call. By the way, I announced last week that Luis Ochoatello of the Office of Permits had not returned my call. He returned my call 1 day later. He apologized for being really busy, and he gave me all the information on how much it costs to obtain a bar and restaurant license and what the procedure is all about, and so forth and so on. And if anybody is interested in this information, I will be happy to share it with you. Let me take a quick look at your comments before we move on to the weather and our special new feature. Let me take a quick look. Dean Milano is heading down on March 14, and we can't wait, he says. Heading to La Capella on Monday, the 15th, for live music and my birthday dinner. This is off. Then it's off to Hacienda San Angel on St. Patty's Day for more live music. That is wonderful. Logan is right. Without tourism, we starve. Michael, I thought you knew everything about crocodiles. We will try to do some research about whether crocodiles are socially distancing or not. Let's see. Ba-dim, bam, boom, bam, boom. Have medical workers in private hospital clinics been vaccinated in Vallarta? I don't know the answer to your question, Linda, because I haven't seen a headline to that effect. I would imagine they have, but I'm not sure. I understand that medical personnel in the States involves both private and public hospitals. If we don't see something, if they hadn't been vaccinated, Linda, I think we would have seen a headline saying, doctors in private hospitals protest. Because if I was a doctor working at a private hospital and I hadn't received a vaccination, even though I'm working as part of the medical personnel and I'm working directly with COVID patients, I would have been pretty upset. Let's see. What about street musicians? Well, great question, Lygia. I mean, it's like, how could you possibly just work one day a week? And why would it arbitrarily be about musicians? I really hope the local press outlets continue pushing this notion because we want to understand what's going on. Kathleen says it's not right for musicians at all. I totally agree. Rita agrees as well. Sean is clutching his pearls. I don't blame you. Boom, 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 boom. Bullshit baffles brains. What next? Waiters can only work one day a week. So much unnecessary weirdness. I couldn't agree more with you, Heather. I couldn't agree with you more. Let's see what else. Tony remarks, 2 presidents, 0 masks. I don't know what to tell you, Tony. I really don't. Let's see. Question. About 2 weeks ago, private hospital staff had not been vaccinated. I asked 2 doctors, one at San Mare and one at CMQ. Well, it's been 2 weeks, Ligia, so I can only hope that they have been vaccinated. A lot of things can happen in 2 weeks. According to Pam Thompson, they have not been vaccinated. With all due respect, Pam Thompson is not an official news outlet, so we listen to her comments every now and then with much respect, but Pam Thompson is not an official news outlet. Any comments from the esteemed mayor? Oh, that is so funny. I love it. Street musicians won't be targeted because there is no business to rip off behind them. Unfortunately, I tend to think that this might be true as well, sad as is towns. Let us move on to the weather and then move on to our music feature. Boom. The sun is 330,000 times more massive than your puny planet, says our snarky weather today, when it tells us as well that it's 25 degrees Celsius. That would be the equivalent of 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity is fabulously low at 43%. And today we can expect a clear day through the day with winds coming from the north, a high temperature of 29, a low temperature of 18. Tomorrow, it'll be mostly cloudy through the day, high temperature of 30, low temperature 19. And Wednesday, also partly cloudy through the day with a high temperature of 31, low temperature 18. Can you feel the temperature rising already? I think it is absolutely funny how we were just complaining about the heat, and then it started to get very cold, and we started complaining about the cold, and now the temperature is getting warm again. I have one leisurely headline to introduce to you before we dive into music, and that would be the crazy fact, and I think it is absolutely crazy. Well, let me start with a Mexican saying. There's a Mexican saying that says, "A palabra dicha ni el más veloz corcel la alcanza." And that means that once a word is said, not even the fastest horse can catch up with it. And of course, that means that once you say something, you cannot take it back. What has that got to do with what we have to share? Well, apparently, WhatsApp has introduced or will introduce a drunk mode that will prevent us from texting things that we will later regret. My question would be, if you are drunk, how will you remember to turn it off or turn it on, this drunk mode? Or are we prone to deciding to get drunk ahead of time so we can plan accordingly? Who knows? I just know that, when I know that I'm going to get drunk, well, I never know that I'm going to get drunk, but the last thing I would want to do when I get drunk is to text somebody. But enough of that. Today is Monday, and today we introduced a new section, Music Mondays, and that's exactly what is going to happen next. Apparently not. Hold on just a second. How about that? Today, we are going to concern ourselves with a topic that I've called Siciliano, And you are probably wondering, what is that about? Well, Siciliano is a musical style or genre that originated in the Baroque period that is often used as a movement within a larger piece of music, like the middle movement, usually, that is usually written in a minor key. And if you don't understand what a minor key or a major key is, we'll leave that for another date. Suffice to say that if something is written in a minor key, it will tend to sound sad or melancholic. And a Siciliano frequently evokes a pastoral mood. Other things to keep in mind, it has a lot less to do with Sicily than you would imagine. Indeed, how a Siciliano type of music style became called Siciliano, we don't know. We know that musicologists have tried to trace it down to Sicily, but have not done so successfully. Now, a Siciliana or Siciliano is usually written in 6/8 rhythm, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it is usually in a slow, moderate tempo. I have some musical notation here. And this musical notation is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, da, 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 and so forth and so on. That is usually the rhythm of a Siciliana or Siciliano. Um, Here's an example of one. I'm going to share with you the second movement, the middle movement of the Flute Sonata in E flat major, BWV 1031 by Johann Sebastian Bach, or attributed to Johann Sebastian Bach. We're going to listen to the second movement of this piece. And we're going to be able to listen to all of it. It's only 2 minutes because this comes from the website museopen.org. It is a website, a nonprofit based in the United States that provides licensing for a number of performances in the classical genre for us to be able to listen to or reproduce without worrying about YouTube or other social media outlets from striking us for copyright law. So let's listen to this 2 minute Siciliana. And I want you to notice, number one, the rhythm that we discussed, this constant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Please notice the beginning of it. You may recognize the melody, and please keep the ending in mind because we're going to listen to it a little bit later to the ending again. Here's the ending. Wasn't that beautiful? That's just 2 minutes of good old Johann Sebastian Bach. This was performed in the original way in which it was composed, which is for flute or recorder and a harpsichord. And now, what's going to happen is we're going to examine the wonderful progression, evolution, treatment that takes place when this music is matched with jazz. First of all, let us meet Eddie Daniels. He is an American musician, composer, although he's most recognized as a jazz clarinetist. He is absolutely well-renowned in jazz circles, and he has a tremendous discography under his belt, over 20 albums released as a solo artist, and many, many collaborations from music performed with many other artists. We could talk a mile, and we could talk forever about Eddie Daniels. We could talk forever about the beauty of the clarinet, how it is played, what are the techniques, what makes clarinet players extraordinary, virtuous musicians. But we're not going to do that today. Instead, we were saying earlier that President of Argentina is in Mexico and that we were going to talk about an Argentinian musician. And I am going to share with you the most amazing, the most talented, the most incredible musician, in my opinion, and most versatile to have come from this beautiful South American country. And that would be none other than Jorge Calandrelli. Jorge Calandrelli is a composer, he is a conductor, and unfortunately, and he's an arranger, of course. He's a beautiful arranger, and oftentimes we listen to albums and we look at the credits in the albums and we know, who the artist is. Sometimes we pay attention to who the producer is, but that's it. A lot of times we're not paying attention as to who the soloist on the third track was, or who arranged the fourth track, or who arranged the whole album. So let me just give you a sense as to Jorge Calandrelli through some of the people that he has collaborated with. One of his big breaks in the United States came from Quincy Jones himself, and Jorge Calandrelli has told the story of how he was sitting at home. He had just arrived in California, and he gets this phone call from Quincy Jones, and who says, "Hey, George, it's Quincy Jones." And Jorge Calandrelli goes, like, "Really? Get out." But no, it was Quincy Jones that had called at John Williams's recommendation. We know John Williams, the famous film music composer, because Quincy Jones was looking for someone to do arrangements and orchestrations for the soundtrack for The Color Purple. Remember The Color Purple, the movie? Well, that was Jorge Calandrelli behind all the arrangements and orchestrations. Here is Jorge Calandrelli with longtime collaborator Tony Bennett. In fact, not too long ago, we mourned the passing of a Mexican composer, Armando Manzanero, and we heard a duet with Tony Bennett singing Esta tarde vi llover. Yesterday I heard the rain, which is a beautiful song. We heard the recording, we watched the video, and that was Jorge Calandrelli's arrangement. Matthew says, Argentinian musicians, composers, what about Astor Piazzolla? He's definitely up there. But for my personal taste, I love Astor Piazzolla, but I love Calandrelli. Here's Calandrelli collaborating with Elton John. He's done a number of his albums. He's done albums with Barbra Streisand. Here he is with Wynton Marsalis. We had just talked about him a couple of days ago. Here he is with Plácido Domingo and Josh Groban, when Plácido Domingo recorded this song that had lyrics by the Pope. It was Jorge Calandrelli who was in charge of this. Jorge Calandrelli is also the man that conducts the Academy Awards Orchestra and makes the arrangements of the music in many of the broadcasts that we watch on television. And what else? Of course, Jorge Calandrelli, needless to say, has collaborated with Eddie Daniels. I'm seeing a really angry post right now, and I'm going to react to that, Douglas, but just in a second. Let me also tell you, before we finish with Jorge Calandrelli, and take a look at some of the artists that he has worked with. He's also worked with artists in Mexico. He's worked with Alejandro Fernandez, for example, and he has worked with Luis Miguel. So now that I've mentioned some of these names, you can possibly imagine the kind of sound that Jorge Calandrelli's orchestrations have, which is this very lush orchestral music. So think about the orchestration and arrangements that people like Jorge Calandrelli make as a plush hotel bed. You know, you've just traveled for a long time and you get to your hotel bed and you lie down on the bed and you feel like you're home, you feel like you're on vacation. Well, that's the kind of padding that a beautiful orchestrator, that a beautiful arranger creates for vocalists like Streisand or Bennett or Groban or instrumentalists like Eddie Daniels can feel comfortable surrounded by. If that makes sense, I certainly hope it makes sense. Anyhow, what I want to point out now is Breakthrough. This is an album that was released in 1986 on the GRP label. It is a beautiful blend of classical and jazz, and it features Calandrelli's own concerto for jazz, clarinet, and orchestra. So the whole album is a total love affair of virtuosic jazz, clarinet playing, and beautiful classical music. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to the ending of the Siciliano that we heard earlier. Of course, when we heard it before, it was we performed by a harpsichord and by a flute. Here, we listen to a transcription, which is the music played, the same music played by different instruments. Of course, in this case, we hear Eddie Daniels on the clarinet, and we hear him being accompanied by a harp. Of course, this music is not licensed, so I'm taking very short musical segments, and I am absolutely certain that YouTube will flag me. Ni modo, we'll see how this goes. This is the first time that we do this, and we'll hope for the best. So imagine that Eddie Daniels has just performed the whole Siciliana on his clarinet, accompanied by a harp, and I'm just going to play that same fragment of the ending that I asked you to kindly pay attention to. And that's the ending. And in the recording, Eddie Daniels sustains that end note and stays with it. Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about this. And what happens next is the orchestra comes in with a beautiful call and response. And I'll explain this call and response in a second. First, I want you to hear this. And stop arguing about the Costco comment, guys. Stop arguing about it. I'll get to it in a second. Okay, here we go. Listen to the introduction or the continuation of the Siciliana. First the woodwinds, and now the strings. And what follows this is the most beautiful jazz version of the Siciliana, and Eddie Daniels improvising with his jazz clarinet, of course, over all this music. And it is an absolutely breathtaking recording. And it is just gorgeously arranged by Calandrelli. And this is what I wanted to share with you today. And I will leave the link to this particular performance so that you can enjoy it on your own time. And I would love to hear your comments about the music. Of course, at home, you'll be able to listen to the whole thing, either through Spotify or through YouTube. I will leave you with both links. And I hope you enjoyed yourselves on this very first Music Monday that we're enjoying today. Okay, now I was reading you guys, and I can see that you've asked for it. Okay, now I'm going to rewind your comments because some of you got really ugly, and that made me very upset. And I'm going to cheerfully clarify what this channel is about and what it's not in the nicest, most cordial way I can. First of all, Sherry Huffman asks, can you talk about something that we care about, please? Like visitors go inside Costco, Canada, visitors go inside Walmart, are the beaches open? Well, Sherry, I am going to gladly answer these questions for you, but I'm also going to remind you that this is a program for locals. Not for tourists, not for visitors. Occasionally, we answer these questions, but we are locals and we talk about local stuff. Why do we do that? Because there are a ton of resources out there that address the needs and wants of visitors. We are not here to do that. We are not here to answer questions like what is the distance between the Malecón and this, that, and the other. But I will be glad to tell you that visitors can go inside Costco and visitors can go inside Walmart. And I'm happy to tell you that the beaches are open. So you should be happy about that. And now I'm going to address a couple of really, did I see a very angry message go by? I think I did, and I need to address that because that is not acceptable, and I'm going to find that right away. Here you are, Douglas Wilson. I'm going to tell you that I appreciate the fact that you decided to pull out your gloves for this person. Don't do that again. I am the one that gets ugly here. I am the one that makes the call. Okay? Your answer to this person is accurate, but it's not put out in a kind way. Kindly don't do that again. That's not what Coffee and Headlines is about. If an occasional question sneaks in from a tourist, we will address it courteously and in a friendly way. And we will courteously remind that tourists to go find the information elsewhere. But I don't appreciate your take, and I'm sure other members of this community don't appreciate it either. I'm sure you're just having a bad morning. Maybe you need a little bit more coffee, and I'm sure this won't happen again. Let's take a look at other comments. Paco, you know what to do when this pandemic is under control. Get back on stage. Thank you very much, Elaine. You've been to many of our music appreciation lectures. I am as itchy to be in a public place as any other performer or musician and be in places where I can talk about things that are dear to me, like music in front of an audience. We haven't done that just yet. But we're waiting for pandemic things to get a little better. Terry also chimed in on Sherry. I am sure that Sherry was very interested in what I had to say. I refuse to believe that Sherry would blatantly say, hey, don't talk about music, talk about Costco, because that's what us visitors want to hear about. I think it was just a matter of timing, and I'm sure that Sherry meant no disrespect. And you are right, this is my house, and we are all guests here. Let me see what else. Thank you for taking us into a journey of different musical genres. It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure. I really, really enjoy this. I really, really enjoy this. Once again, Barbara, again, I think it was a matter of timing. I'm sure that Sherry did not mean to imply that she was not interested in music, because Sherry is smarter than that. And I'm going to tell you why. You know, when the content at Coffee and Headlines is not good, when the episode of Friends you're watching is not good, all you have to do is change the channel. It's that simple. Let's see what else we have. I think that's enough of a shit show. And I think we are pretty much done here. Oh no, the shit show. Well, you guys got ugly, Joe, and we need to keep that in track. Let's see. My sticker keeps me from following comments as they happen. I hope. Oh my God, Michael, don't send the crocodiles my way, please. Let's see what else. Susan, I think about you whenever we think about music. Susan is my adored music friend. I have many, but Susan, And I'm sure Susan has fond memories of us traveling to Guadalajara to listen to the symphony. May we be able to do that sometime soon. Let's see what else. Barbara asks a good question. Anyone know why the gas company is not delivering? Been waiting for 3 days. Today, they are not even answering the phone. I wonder, Barbara, if this has anything to do with, I don't know if it's the same kind of gas, natural gas for stoves and natural gas for buses. We know that there's a shortage of natural gas in Mexico because of the weather problems in Texas. It may have something to do with that, but I'm not entirely certain. Let's see what else we have. Michael says he's glad he missed the brouhaha. Michael, we count on you on sending crocodiles to nasty people all the time. And speaking of nasty people, it's time for me to go do the nasty elsewhere because our show is over. Yay! Thank you very much for being here with us today. It is always a pleasure to see you. And thank you for being patient with people that may or may not understand the nature of Coffee and Headlines. We all walked into this space for the first time at some point, and we all, or some of us, did not understand what it was about. We are here to remind people in the friendliest possible way what we are about and what we are not about. And that's why we have a frequently asked questions on our website, and I'm going to put the link to that right now, www.paco-ojeda.com/FAQ, and this should appear in your comments momentarily. If you ever have any questions about what Coffee and Headlines is about or not about, just click on that link, and I'm sure you will gain at least a little bit of clarity. Between now and then, please stay kind, stay happy, stay cheerful, stay respectful, and come back soon. Have a great day.